man not tell me no way, man not tell me no way, I will let be like one. You know, go me not drown the Uga. Low, when no me do, Lord, what do I
want to beg the government so to talk to Femi Adelaja. When he's coming here, we bring the white boat. That last one boat will come with it with many soldiers. Nobody can near the boat. So we are only begging God to help us.
Look at Torubami. They just wake up in a day and start pursuing them up and down. They even promise them that don't worry, we settle you in another community. Torubami people, they are in Makoko community when they pursue them away. Ikate people, they are in Makoko community. Bariga, they are in Makoko community. Now the government and the developer again, they came in that they want to collect Makoko away from us.
If we are a landlord, you show your first data like this, they will start tormenting you that they will be putting fears in your body, they will kill you so that you will not be able to move front, to come and push them away.
Makoko community is an urban slum, which the Lagos state government considers a dent to its megacity ambition. The government wants to relocate and resettle the people of the community so it can redevelop the place. But the terms of relocation, resettlement and compensation are not clear. For years, the Makoko, Shoguro and Okeagbon communities have made this place their home. But recent efforts to develop the waterfront threaten their very existence. So where exactly does the government plan to relocate the locals? What happens to the fishing community? And how does a mega upscale property solve the city's housing deficit? TV360 Nigeria launched an investigation into the redevelopment plan of the Lagos state government and sought to find answers to these questions. Every morning, 55-year-old Godonu Ojo paddles his canoe to the Lagos Lagoon, just meters away from his ancestral home in Makoko to fish. Like thousands of other fishermen in the Makoko waterfront community, Godonu survives on the daily income he gets from selling his daily catch. But the reclamation activities of the Lagos state government, in partnership with the private developer FBT Coral Estates Limited, threatened not only the livelihood of Ojo and other local fishermen here, but also their homes.
I'm a fisherman too. I used to go to fishing. But when that dredging comes, there's a time that they put it on the water. That time the water float with it. When somebody passes, that boat with it, there's something that's used to bring sand will disturb the person. Even though the big wave is coming, the boat can capsize. So we try to manage until they put it on the ground of water. But that thing drive the whole fish to the sea. So that thing now can drive the whole fish to the sea and drive them moving around. They will not come nearby.
From the fishermen who toil all day on the lagoon to the women who smoke the fish, and then finally to the fishmonger who trades our wares at the popular Makoko seafood market. The survival of each resident is tied to the Lagos Lagoon. But residents say the sand-filling activities on the community waterfront has made fishing very difficult. According to the Lagos State Commissioner for Agriculture, Abisola Olusonya, the artisanal fisheries subsector of the state's fish supply chain presently contributes 80% of local fish production, which accounts for 40% of the state's total fish demand. She added that it also provides a major source of livelihood for fishermen in the state, and Makoko is one of the sources of the city's fish supply. But despite its economic viability, the Lagos state government would prefer that Makoko Iwaya waterfront community does not exist. Rather than cars and motorcycles, canoes bump into each other here in Makoko, an informal waterfront settlement in Lagos, Nigeria. It is often called the Venice of Africa, but its floating slum status where thousands live in wooden houses nestled on stilts in deep murky waters tell a different story. The multicultural nature of this riverine community reflects in the language, majorly Egun, Yoruba and French. Despite being a slum, life here is tranquil. Residents engage in routine business activities, offering various forms of services such as grocery shops, door-to-door salesmanship, canoe manufacturing workshops, and even schools that cater for both English and French-speaking people.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Trouble began for the community on July 20, 2012, when the Lagos State Demolition Task Force stormed Makoko and began pulling down houses barely 72 hours after an eviction notice by the Lagos State Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure Development. To speed up the eviction process, armed men set the wooden houses on fire. In a disturbance, one person lost his life and many others sustained injuries. Again in 2020, the Lagos State government announced the reclamation of 54.58 hectares of Makoko for redevelopment by developer FBT Coral Estate Limited. But this plan has been widely rejected by residents of Makoko Iwaya waterfront community.
Torí bó ṣe wọ́n ṣe fún gbogbo wa àwọn èèyàn wa bó bá ṣe díẹ̀ díẹ̀ nísìn wọ́n á kó wọn kúrò wọ́n ní níbi kankan fi sùn sí gbogbo wa nìkan wà nínú bòté wà nínú ọkọ̀ bó bá níbi kan wá sùn sí kò dá àlọ́mọ wẹ́wẹ́wẹ́ ọmọ pọ̀ mo fẹ́ afẹ́ kó wọn sí àlè kúrò ń bí but bí ìjọba fẹ́ tún àwọn sùkúù ṣe fún àwọn ọmọ wa ó dá.
I'm a graduate of BSP Polytechnic. I graduated there, and it's from this fishing money that I was sent to school. We have many students here. We have more than 200 students, more than 300 to 1,000 students that are schooling here. We are all trained, all sent to school with this fishing money. If there's something that place, how are we going to survive? How are these people going to survive? fine, they are talking about development. I know it's not good for we to be staying like this, like wasted. There's no way, there's no place to put waste, dustbin, you understand, no good health center, no government school here. But we ourselves, we support their motion that said they want to develop, but it shouldn't be that way. If truly they would develop the community, they should come. We, the youth, the community, everybody will discuss in a democratic way. They can't just go there and impose dredging or impose any forced eviction on us.
There's no place that can be free to them other than fishing ports. I don't know where you want to take them to. I don't know where you want to develop for them. The only place they can live peacefully is at the fishing ports. So, no to the land grabbing. You know, we have experienced a lot of things, and now we have come to say no to the land grabbing, and let us not be chased from our homes.
The locals, made up of 3 fishing communities, Makoko, Okoagbon and Sogoro, have organized themselves on different occasions to protest the government's relocation and redevelopment plans. They say rather than build the much-needed infrastructure the community needs, the government is employing subtle means to steal their land and redevelop it for the benefit of the city's rich. In 2017, thousands of people in Otodogbame, an informal fishing community, were left homeless when officials of the Lagos State government and armed policemen conducted a forceful eviction. The raid led to the destruction of homes of about 5,000 people and the death of a man who, according to the Justice and Empowerment Initiative (JEI), was shot in the neck.
Look at Torugbame. Torugbame, they just wake up in a day and start pursuing them up and down. They even promise them that don't worry, we settle you in another community. Torugbame people, they are in Makoko community when they pursue them away. Ikate people, they are in Makoko community. Bariga, they are in Makoko community. Now everybody now in Makoko community, all the people you have chased away, you have promised to relocate them in another community, which you didn't even do. And you now chase them to, they run into Makoko community. Now the government and the developer again, they came in that they want to collect Makoko away from us.
These particular people are the people that spoil Otodogbame. They went to Otodogbame. They feed the waterfront. They make it impossible for the people, the fishing people, to move outside. Since they can't move outside, they use the sand to block the waterfront and then wage war on them, calling the touts, the police, without informing the governor. So when they started this thing, they killed more than 5 people were killed during the Otodogbame forced eviction that took place in 2017.
In an apparent move to avoid public backlash, the state government chose to adopt a new approach of dialogue with the representatives of the Makoko Iwaya waterfront community. But things quickly turned sour when the locals felt sold out by their leaders, or bales, as they are called in the local language. Residents showed us an MOU where the bales signed an agreement with a private developer, FBT Coral Estates Limited, giving consent to the state government's proposed redevelopment and regeneration plans. The residents, however, argued that the MOU was signed without the general consensus of the community.
When they came, they proposed the plan. The youth, everyone in the community doesn't support their motion. So we said no. Suddenly they went to meet with the developer Femi of FBT Coral Limited. So when they met with Femi without our consent, they signed. We heard that they signed an MOU. They signed a MOU. When they signed the MOU, we heard about it. We are not happy because we didn't meet together to discuss this. So we were angry. We asked them that we are not in support with this MOU they signed. So they were like, we are the leaders. Anything we want is that. Anything we want is what you will take.
What I've learned so far, speaking with members of this community, is that while they are open to development in terms of better schools, healthcare and other infrastructure, they want all of this on their own terms. Now, their fear is that these developers could take advantage of them and steal their land. Now, they say that fishing is their primary source of income and any form of relocation is not welcome.
It is important to understand that the MOU speaks of several redevelopment projects that the community will benefit from, such as jobs and other social amenities, but a part which speaks of a displacement and resettlement at a later date worries the residents. The Lagos State government, on one hand, promises to redevelop the area and turn it into an upscale estate in line with the themes agenda of the state. But in the same breath, the MOU speaks of a relocation and resettlement of the locals. This contradiction raises three major questions. Since the MOU did not mention the construction of low-cost housing for the residents, how will the construction of an upscale mega estate be of benefit to the fishing community? Where does the government plan to move the fishing community to? And how would they be compensated? These are the questions TV360 Nigeria put forward in these letters to the Office of the Public-Private Partnership, whose special advisor is Okpe George. The Lagos State Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure Development, headed by Ahmed Kabiru, and the Lagos State Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, which was headed by Salako Idris at the time of this report. Sadly, all attempts to get a response from these three agencies, who play vital roles in the redevelopment plan of the Makoko Iwaya waterfront community, have been futile. After an initial cancellation of a scheduled interview by the Special Advisor to the Office of Public-Private Partnership, Okpe George, we finally got a response months into this investigation. In a signed letter, the Special Advisor gave vague assurances of the state government's resolve to work in partnership with the locals. His responses did not give clear and direct answers to the questions and demands of the residents of Makoko Iwaya waterfront community. We have also tried to get answers from Felix Moka, who is named as a legal representative of the Makoko Iwaya fishing community in a memorandum of understanding. All calls to his numbers were unanswered, and he did not respond to his text messages.
Despite several protests, reclamation activities on the Makoko waterfront continues. As you can see behind me, that's a dredging machine set up by FBT Coral Estate Limited to reclaim more than 50 hectares of land off the Makoko waterfront. Now, fishermen say the dredging activities, as they call it, has made fishing quite difficult.
While the questions of the residents of Makoko Iwaya waterfront community remains unanswered, the sorry state of housing deficit in Lagos is better explained in these numbers. An estimated population size of 23 million residents, a housing stock of 1.49 million units, and a household size of 4.9 people puts the housing deficit of the state at 3.2 million housing units. The Lagos State government is not unaware of this problem and says it has delivered 14 housing schemes in the past 2 years, contributing 7,000 affordable housing units. While this number of homes can barely solve the city's housing problems, these houses do not come cheap, as houses range between 4 million naira and 20 million naira. With Lagos having a poverty rate estimated at 8.5% and the vast majority living below extreme poverty levels, the construction of mega estates and even the low-cost housing estate is unaffordable for an average Makoko resident. This will further worsen the housing crisis and push more of the state's population into slums and, worse still, homelessness. To better understand the state's housing situation, I paid a visit to Lukman Oshodi, an infrastructure and development expert who led a research team in 2016 on the Lagos State government's past and present policies and projects that border on urban regeneration, housing and infrastructure development in the state, especially mega projects. Oshodi tells me some of his research outcomes.
If you look at the city of Lagos and the development orientation, all these resettlement, relocation, they are yet to be fully adopted as a culture of development processes in Lagos. If you look at development trajectory of Lagos, there is no way you can have a new development without some level of demolition and all that. but the process of going about that demolition so that it doesn't really expose the dignity of the people who reside in those places into danger, into ridicule. Those are the key points that need to come into play.
Sadly, the problem runs deeper than mere numbers suggest. When evacuations are carried out, families are torn apart and may never be properly compensated or resettled decades after. This was the case of some residents of Old Makoko who were lucky to be resettled in this substandard housing in Ikota area of the state. Now 70 years old, Roselyn Odimoko was a young mother and wife in 1990 when she and her husband lost their homes when the then military governor of the state, Raji Razaki, ordered the forceful eviction of more than 3,000 residents of Makoko.
When they give us notice 7 days that they're going to let everybody pack away, we think say that is a joke. Before the 7 days, they bring bulldozers, soldiers, surround all the whole Makoko. That day of 7 days, they start demolishing all the whole places. That's during Razaki regime. That 1990. Like I myself, I sleep for main road for good 2 weeks because nowhere to go. I have children. My husband is there. Many people, we don't know where to go. 7 days notice to go out is how Morocco. Some people are sleeping under bridge everywhere. The government still call us when we are reporting where are we going, where are we going. Then give us say that we come and take our allocation paper for this 80 years a year. We went there. Then give them. Like we have 2 houses. They not even give us 1. Some people have 3. Then give them 1. It's by luck. The house at Makoko is 10,000 houses. But the people they locate for this place, both Jakonde and this, it's not all to 6,000 or 5,000. You see, when this thing happen, then give us allocation paper. Everybody comes to find the zone house here, and when we get some people get the place, they enter. When that time there is no window, it's uncompleted building. Yeah, there no window, no door, no nothing. Like this bridge now, many people die because nowhere to hide themselves. Before we use zinc and everything, putting for the doors and this thing. After then call us again for roofers. Even they give us paper for the roofers for doors and the roofers, and we take it and come and fix it by ourselves.
While the eviction has been described as one of the largest forced evictions in Nigerian history, the people still face the threat of losing everything as land grabbers and encroachers threaten them daily.
February this month, this year, we just say caterpillar just coming. They bring sand, fill all these places, when they break, they will continue fill. When they break, they fill. When they break, they fill. We go and meet them and say, who send you this work? Because we know because they have gone and this OPC people. And then we cannot go and meet them. We send people go and meet them. Where are you coming from? Who send you? They say they want to develop. Okay. If you want to develop, not be develop. If you never see us, why you say you want to develop this place? Nobody against developer. The only thing, if you want to develop, you have to come to our community and ask us, say, what happened? This is our landlord or this is the landlord. Well, we not discuss with you, just continue to break our house. We just begin the drag. After when we drag, they not give us any results. We have to go back. We go to, during that time, there's one court when they go for Yaba. We went to the court. We complained. They said we should bring our allocation paper for court. We submit all our allocation paper. Still, we tell the court, say, they are breaking the house. Let's give us stop those people for us, Joshua. They say no, they cannot stop.
This is how they normally treat us in this community like this. You see these people we are seeing there, so he's accusing the landlord association. They are the land grabber and they are the agent of the land grabber. They are working for Emmanuel Eberu, and they are working for Yemi Idowu, which is the Aircom owner. So that is the way they threaten our in 2017/2018. They kill like our 4 or 5 men. When they come again this 2022 again now, there's an old woman, slum. So also a pregnancy woman also die in these cases like this. Even though around 2:30, they also tormenting. If you are a landlord, you show your first data like this, they will start tormenting you that they will be putting fears in your body. They will kill you so that you will not be able to move front to come and push them away.
We're just about running up our interviews with the residents of Ikota Estate when a security operative who did not identify himself came to us and ordered us to pack up our cameras. He also accosted some of the residents. He said they encroached on the area, and he also threatened to identify them and deal with them if they do not leave that area. He was also seen filming some of us and the residents to leave. Now, in response, the residents have told him that this is their land, and they also tell me that this is the way these unknown security operatives come around to harass them.
Makoko isn't the only community in the threat of an eventual displacement, and Old Maroko is just one of several communities that have ceased to exist.
Believe it or not, this part of Lekki in Etiosa local government area used to be a thriving town of Maroko, which more than 300,000 residents called home. Maroko was adjacent to Ikoyi and east of Victoria Island. While all traces of old Maroko has been destroyed to make way for this affluent neighborhood, the original residents make do with substandard housing given by the Lagos State government as compensation.
The human and psychological effects of their eventual eviction and the apprehension of what the future holds reflect in the dynamics of human dignity, protection of aquatic life, and preservation of indigenous communities in Lagos State. Folashade Ogrinde, TV360 News.
And welcome to the program. I am Abisola Adebayo. Niger State-owned NNPC Limited has officially started drilling for oil and gas at a field in the northern part of the country that has reserves of 1 billion barrels as the country seeks to produce crude outside the Niger Delta region of the country for the first time. According to NNPC Limited, the phase 1 of the coal mining project would have an oil refinery, gas processing unit, 300 megawatt power plant and fertilizer plant producing 2,500 tons a day. NNPC Limited first announced in 2019 the discovery of crude oil, gas and condensate in commercial quantity in the Kolmani area between Bauchi and Gombe states in northeastern Nigeria, a region that has been battling with Islamist insurgency for a while. In the flag-off ceremony earlier this week, President Buhari urged NNPC and its partners to work with local communities and draw lessons from the restive Niger Delta, where militants have in the past blown up pipelines, accusing oil companies of neglecting locals. Although no major oil firm is involved in the project, local firm Sterling Global Oil and New Nigeria Development Commission, a conglomerate owned by 19 northern states, will be in charge of the project. Now, what exactly does this mean for Nigeria's oil and gas industry? You know, oil and gas expert Bala Zaka is on the program today, and he will be joining me to discuss all of this further. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. So,
thank you.
Let me start by asking, what is your reaction to this? You know, Nigeria started drilling oil in the northern part of the region. How would you react to that?
Well, when I heard about the discovery around Kolmani and the arrival of Mr. President for flag off, well, it was something I appreciated generally. But looking at it also as an expert or as a practitioner in the oil and gas industry, I've always known that Nigeria has basins. You know, we have sedimentary basins and we have promising basins. As I speak to you now, I think we have about close to about 7 basins or thereabouts, starting with the prolific Niger Delta Basin. You know, we have so much fossil fuel there, or oil and gas, as people describe it. When you look at Lagos area or Lagos axis, I mean, Lagos axis falls into the basin we call Dahomey Basin. Oil has been discovered also there. When you look at the Anambra Basin, you know, I mean, oil and gas have been discovered. Then we have other basins that I have always described, or we can technically describe as potential basins. And those basins are like the Benue Trough, the Chad Basin, the Gongola Basin, and you have the Bidda Basin and the Sokoto Basin. So technically, Kolmani falls under Gongola Basin. So based on these discoveries, I mean, we are happy as practitioners, we are happy as Nigeria, and I think the oil and gas industry globally is happy. What we are waiting to see is the crystallization of activities, you know, so that at the end of the day, I mean, Nigeria will benefit from it, surrounding communities will benefit from it, the oil and gas industry community, whether locally or globally, will appreciate these discoveries.
This particular oil field is proposed to produce an estimated 50,000 barrels of oil per day. You know, that sounds like a big deal. What would you say to that?
Well, when you talk about endowments, when you talk about progress, as long as it is called progress, even if the increment or the increase is infinitesimal, as long as it is a positive increase, I mean, people will always appreciate it. What we don't want as Nigeria is we don't want stunted growth. We don't want a progress that will be backwards. But as long as it's a positive progress moving forward, we will appreciate it. Because you're just talking about oil now. You know, as we speak, Nigeria's proved reserve in terms of crude oil endowment is in excess of 36 billion barrels. And when you talk about crude natural gas, Nigeria's proved reserve in terms of natural gas is in excess of 200 trillion cubic feet. And when you talk about potential reserve, you're talking about something close to about 600 trillion cubic feet. That is huge. Because as you see Qatar today, I mean, World Cup is going on in Qatar. As lit as Qatar, as bright and as rich and as glamorous as Qatar, Qatar is just benefiting from just natural gas or their gas endowment. Then a country like Nigeria has natural gas and also crude oil endowments. In fact, Nigeria is more of a gas nation than a crude oil nation. So when you look at that, the only thing you can ask is what has been wrong in terms of trying to transform Nigeria into a great country. What is that thing that has made it difficult for Nigeria to diversify so that we can look like other great nations?
So now, how beneficial exactly is this discovery going to be to, Nigeria's revenue generation?
Well, first of all, when you talk about fossil fuel, Nigeria has been enriched. And whether people accept it or not, as we speak today, crude oil and gas constitute a very strong energy source globally. And people should not be deceived. In the next century and the century beyond, crude oil and gas will continue to be relevant and will continue to remain a very strong source of energy. Because as I speak to you right now, even coal is a very strong energy source and income generator for some nations. So moving forward, crude oil and gas will continue to be relevant. But we even are talking about cleaner fossil fuel. Even when you go to cleaner fossil fuel, Nigeria is more of a gas nation than an oil nation. What has always been the problem of Nigeria is trying to manage our God-given endowments. And let us get it very, very clear. Quote me that I said, the natural endowments that we have had, whether in energy or human beings or other solid mineral, is something that we can only appreciate the Almighty. But management, having visionary leaders that will make sure Nigeria is on the right pedestal and that will make sure Nigeria is on the right track, has always been the problems that we've been having. Because as I speak to you right now, Nigeria has everything to be an energy hub. Nigeria has everything to be the continental hub for Africa. But management, having that God-given endowment is one thing. Ability to manage it and crystallize it into something that will be beneficial to citizens, whether at local levels in Nigeria or to the Nigerian community or to the continent of Africa or to the global community, is another thing entirely.
Talking about management now, the situation with the Niger Delta region is not news to a lot of people, despite how blessed that region is. So what are the things that you would think the government should do or put in place so they would not repeat the same mistakes with the Niger Delta region?
I think this is my suggestion to the government of Nigeria. The government of Nigeria should come out clean. If we are having insecurity issues, say we are having insecurity issues. If we are having vandalization or theft or kidnapping issues, say we are having that. And the reason why it's always good to come out clean and be honest is when you say the truth, then people are ready to cooperate with you. But if you are losing investors and you are telling your citizens that the investors are moving away because they want to go into other sources of energy or they are diversifying. Meanwhile, in real sense, the investors are running away from business climate hostilities. Business climate hostilities, this time around, I'm not talking only about the oil and gas industry. When you talk about business climate hostilities, they are probably running away from armed robbery. They are probably running away from extortion. They are probably running away from general insecurity. They are probably running away from community issues. They are probably running away from high cost of operations, like energy cost and the rest. So sometimes it's good to say it so that citizens will collectively make sure they support their governments to get it right. Because if the government is doing well, then citizens can be taken care of.
Right, so do you think this discovery might eventually spur solution to the security challenges in that region? Because how exactly is the government expected to attract foreign investment if there is no security in that region?
Well, like one thing about first of all, let us get this clear. Crude oil and gas is an international product, or they are international products. And that simply means you will continue to get foreign direct investors. You will continue to see the interest of the international investors and the international community. But there is one thing about the oil and gas industry. No matter how sweet your crude oil looks like, no matter how high the API gravity looks like, no matter how high what we call mobility ratio of your crude oil looks like, no matter how nice looking and other features, characteristics, or attributes of your crude oil and gas look like, if there is no security, your country or your product or your environment will not look like an attractive investment haven. So the first thing oil and gas industry practitioners look out for is security. So, and the security in the context of Nigeria is something artificial. With all the opportunities that are bound now that should make Nigeria to generate so much money, it is not the fault of anybody but Nigerians that we have bandits. It is the fault of Nigerians that we have kidnapping. It is the fault of Nigeria that we have community issues. It is the fault of Nigeria that we have pipeline vandalization. But if we can come together in national interest and most importantly, support our leaders and make sure also we have visionary leaders, of course, security is something we can nip in the bud. Once we fix security, then everybody, whether local or international investors, will see Nigeria as a positive and a very good investment haven. And if they come in to invest, coupled with the corporations of Nigeria, then it will be a win-win situation for all parties.
Right, so let me ask you this question as an expert. Are you confident that this project will be a success, considering the fact that even the refineries, most of the refineries in this country are not even working right now?
Whenever I'm asked a question about the success of Nigeria, especially in terms of crystallizing God-given wealth, into positive products, I tend to be a bit reserved. I will continue to be a bit reserved because I have my practical reasons. As I speak to you right now, despite the need for energy, fossil fuel, in the context of Nigeria, quote me that I said, in Nigeria today, we do not have up to 15 active drilling rigs. And if you don't have active drilling rigs, how are you going to produce to meet up with your OPEC quota? How are you going to produce to even meet up with your internal budget plans and take care of your budget deficit? So it is one thing to be blessed with the resources. It is another thing to make sure you have visionary leaders that are supported and are surrounded by supporting lieutenants, so that everything about that endowment will yield positive products for the general benefits of everybody, whether the citizens, whether the country, whether foreign direct investors, whether the continent of Africa or the global community.
Right, so this discovery is the first of its kind in the country's north. Do you expect more of this in that side of the country?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, we have potential basins. In fact, those basins, we call them potential basins, and sometimes they are described as frontier basins, especially in the Petroleum Industry Act. What that simply means is they have so much endowment that we can never tell whether maybe they are in commercial quantity or they are not in commercial quantity. One thing about endowment is this: you can have it down there, but sometimes it is the technology that will determine whether you can deploy the technology and be able to recover whatever you need. Sometimes again, it could be security issues. We could have issues again with bad governance. We could also have issues with bad policies. So there are so many things, but our hope and prayer is that we will continue to make discoveries, not only in the oil and gas industry. We pray to make more discoveries in solid minerals. We hope and pray to make discoveries in agriculture. We hope to make discovery in science and technology, engineering, and the rest. But it is one thing to make all these positive discoveries. It is another thing to have leaders and we have technocrats that will make sure we benefit. And let me give you a practical example. Right. If you look at the way and manner the oil and gas industry in Nigeria has been mismanaged, quote me that I said, had it been the crude oil and gas in Nigeria or that we have in Nigerian reservoirs were not natural gifts, if they were to be based on creativity of leaders, if they were to be based on transparency of leaders, if they were to be based on the morality of leaders, quote me that I said Nigerian crude oil and gas will have disappeared to the reservoir of some countries. And that's the extent to which we want our leaders to help and put our country, which in all the other aspects, put our country on the right trajectory. Once we get it right on the right trajectory, quote me that Nigeria stands to become a great country and a leader, not only within the continent of Africa, but among the Committee of Nations.
So although one would agree that this is one of the biggest discoveries of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration, but you know, some people are beginning to toe the line of, oh, this discovery was made possible because of the APC administration in government. What would your reaction be to that?
Well, this is the way I will answer your question. If you ask an average person that doesn't really know much about the history of oil and gas in Nigeria, they will tell you that crude oil was discovered in Oloibiri in 1956 or 58. But I can tell you as a practitioner that searching for crude oil in the Niger Delta started as far back as 1948. That was the period it started. So, but many people will not know. When you even talk about the Gongola Basin, search for oil in the Gongola Basin started a long time ago. The only thing I can tell you is within this time frame where we now have a President Muhammadu Buhari in power, certain things came into crystallization. But I will always say one thing. For a good Nigeria, we should put political affiliation away. We should put religious affiliation away. We should put regional affiliation and sectarian affiliations away. What we need to do is to look at national interest. And our prayer is that, yes, coal mining activity started ages before even President Muhammadu Buhari thought of going into politics. But within his time as a president, yes, certain things crystallized. And our belief is long after President Muhammadu Buhari, we will see more. Other frontier basins will be explored. But at the end of the day, Nigeria will be the one to be better for it. Not any political party, not any individual, but the totality of Nigerians.
Right. Oil and gas expert Bala Zaka, thank you so much for coming on the program and thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Well, we'll go on a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking about something else entirely. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on the program. So the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, is expected to appear before the Senate Committee on Special Duties to explain why the sum of 206 billion naira was inserted in the 2023 budget for the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. The committee issued the summons when the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Farouk, defended our ministry's 2023 budget proposal earlier this week. The decision was made sequel to the ability of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs to provide details of the proposed allocation. Farouk told the panel that she did not know how the 206 billion naira was inserted into our ministry's budget by the Ministry of Finance. She explained that our ministry in 2022 requested for funds for some projects for the Northeast Development Commission and the National Social Safety Net project, which was not released then, adding that she was surprised that 10 times the requested fund was now allocated in the 2023 budget. The Senate has now asked that the Minister of Finance appear before it with details and plans for the allocation made, despite the country's dwindling revenue and struggling economy. Anyways, joining me to discuss this further is Dr. Lanre Suraj, is the chairman of Human and Environmental Development Resources Center. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. So this budget padding allegation, what do you think is going on? How would you react to it?
Well, I think what we can say is not going on is part of those things that we've actually happen to condemn with this government, which is about lack of coordination in the management of the affairs and also the operations of the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. And that is actually working now in the interest of, accountability. And also the oversight function of the National Assembly is also being appreciated, now. And I think they are waking up to that responsibility of real budget provision and proposition scrutiny. This is actually the role that the National Assembly was statutorily mandated to play. But what the National Assembly has been doing before now is either to conspire for padding or even pad their own budget. And at the same time, many times, the conspiracy with the civil servants and also the ministries. But the discordance that we've always experienced with this government, which has been almost the hallmark of the government, with ministers, arguing on particular issues separately within this government, is actually playing out. So with the denial by the humanitarian affairs of how the 206 billion got into the budget provision, it's good for democracy. And it's interesting. And it would be better if we eventually have the National Assembly seeing this to a logical conclusion for people to also be appropriately indicted and the president mandated to take necessary actions. Interestingly, it is not just the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. I think the total of what has been in the public domain would be in the range of over 400 billion. We've seen that there's almost the same thing in the budget for the Ministry of Defense. There's the same thing in the Ministry of Health and several other ministries where several amount of money have found their way into the budgetary provisions for this several ministries, and obviously from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is the last stop before the budget preparation gets to the president for transmission to the National Assembly. So for me, this is where you're seeing the positive impact of the negative activities and operations of the government.
So what exactly will be the implication of this situation?
The implication of that is for, the people who are responsible for this. I mean, because the Ministry of Finance cannot make provision that does not emanate from the assigned ministries. So there's no way that the Minister of Finance can justify any form of inflation of the budget of any ministry. So for that reason, this is more or less the opportunity for this government to actually hold responsible, appropriately sanction people who have been responsible for padding, and start the investigation even from the 2022 budget that will be ending very soon, by ensuring that we find out what exactly happened with the budget and how were they were padded, because people must have padded the 2022 budget provision and allocation, and then we will be seeing several forms of money disappearing between December, January, thereabout, when the fiscal year is coming to an end. The second point is, you can imagine where the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs even said that some of the budgetary provision for the ministry under the 2022 budget has not been released to the ministry up until now. So there will be a need to investigate that and hold people responsible for what that just happened.
Right. So do you see this maybe as just administrative incompetence, or is plain corruption?
No, this is not just plain corruption. This is an entrenched corruption. This is corruption taken too far. This is the highest level of impunity that you would experience from both civil servants and also politically exposed person, political appointees. And that, like I said, the Minister of Finance would have to take responsibility for this, for what I've just played out. I mean, you're talking about several ministries, not just one. You're talking about a situation where ministries have not even in any way made some of these provisions before. One thing that is also clear is the fact that some areas where the civil servants have, as a tradition, padded the previous budget must have actually also been blocked. And some of those opportunities are not just available again because they are pathologically, entrenched in the process of reaping some free money from the budgetary process. Must have driven them to do this blatant, crass form of padding and overloading the budget for this to have happened, and possibly assuming that the National Assembly would not have the opportunity and detailed engagement of the process to ask questions like that just happened, which has now exposed several things. And like I said, the National Assembly must take this seriously with the president. The president must be compelled to take action, and where sanctions can be imposed for us to prevent the reoccurrence of a similar situation.
Right, Dr. Larry Sura, the Executive Chairman of EDA Resource Center, thank you so much for joining us on the program, and thank you for your insights.
Always my pleasure.
Well, that's how much we can take on the program for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Many thanks for joining us on News Now at this time. Thank you for joining us today on the newsroom. The State Emergency Management Authority has said one vote woman and the rampant illegal spectrum frequencies. The banks took over the wheels on the Nigeria stock market today as sellers eased.
It's good to have you join us on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Mary Kanu. The Ogun State chapter of the Labour Party has expelled the party's Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council, Donyo Okupe, for failing to perform his financial membership status in the past 6 months, contrary to the dictate of the party's constitution. Okupe was dismissed alongside 10 other party members. This was part of the resolutions reached at the end of a meeting held at the party secretariat in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, on Thursday, where they called for the emergence of a new Director General of Northern Extraction to reflect the national character and political balance. State chairman of the party, Michael Achande, said the action had become imperative in order to enforce discipline and internal democracy, as he accused Okupe of polarizing the Labour Party in the southwest state. And Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu, has debunked rumors making the rounds that voters could vote without the permanent voters card (PVC) on election day. Yakubu made the clarification on Thursday at the opening of a 2-day induction retreat for the Commission's resident electoral commissioners in Lagos, a few weeks after the induction of 19 resident electoral commissioners. He also said, contrary to speculations, for anybody to vote, he or she must be registered and issued a PVC.
Now, there has been a report, and the attention of the Commission has been drawn to the report that people can vote on election day without the PVCs. That will be a violation of Section 47, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act. Any Nigerian who wishes to vote on election day must present his or her PVC to the presiding officer at the polling unit in the constituency where he or she wishes to vote. And the policy of the Commission is no PVC, no voting. The policy hasn't changed and will be the last to violate the provisions of the Electoral Act. So please, Nigerians should discountenance the argument or position that people can vote on election day without PVCs. You know, we have been consistently saying there is no court judgment that says that INEC should continue with the voter registration. It's a misinformation that should also be discountenanced. The court did not order the Commission to resume the voter registration. In any case, we have less than 90 days to the election anyway, and there is no such court order.
With elections around the world in several countries, election results not being accepted and challenged, and even non-legal means being used to address complaints about the electoral process. So I think it's important to acknowledge this and, of course, ensure that a different path is taken here in Nigeria. There's a new Electoral Act, there's a legal framework, and I think this should be the basis of addressing the concerns when they happen. Of course, prevention should also be a part of it, and this is where it's the responsibility of INEC to ensure that it conducts a credible process.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has accused governors of stealing from local government council allocations. The president, who spoke after delivering his speech at the presidential parley for members of a senior executive course 44th 2022 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies at the State House, underscored that personal integrity is fundamental in the operations of government. The president recalled an instance of how a state governor would receive allocation on behalf of council areas in his state, only to remit half of such allocation to the council chairman. These actions, he said, portray the sort of corrupt practices that are now symptomatic of Nigeria in dispensing resources meant for local council administrations, thereby undermining development.
The treatment of what they did, this is my personal experience. If the monies from the federal government to state government, say it's 100 million. Let's put it 100 million. 50 million will be sent to the chairman with a letter that he will sign that he received 100 million. The governor will pocket the balance and shared it with whoever he wanted. And then the chairman of the local government will see how much he must pay in salaries to help goes to development. Money for the salaries will be given and the balance will put in his pocket. This was happening. This is Nigeria. It's a terrible thing. You cannot say the person who was doing that was not educated. He was a qualified lawyer. He was experienced. Yet he participated in this type of corruption.
And also legal matters, Justice Halilu Yusuf of the Federal Capital Territory High Court has remanded Aminu Adamu, a student of the Federal University Dutse Jigawa at the Suleja Correctional Center in Niger State after tweeting about the wife of the President, Aisha Buhari. The student was arraigned for cyber stalking and was denied bail despite pleading not guilty to the charges filed against him. Adamu, a 500-level student who was allegedly arrested by security officials on the orders of Aisha Buhari a few days ago, had in June tweeted in Hausa that the president's wife was feeding fat on poor people's money. Justice Halilu ordered the defendant to be remanded in Suleja prison pending the hearing and determination of his bail application. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, has condemned the detention of Adamu over the alleged defamatory post made against the wife of the president. NANS President Usman Barambu, in a statement on Thursday, demanded the unconditional release of the student of the Federal University in Dutse and announced a nationwide protest for Monday, December 5, 2022 to press home the demand of the student's body. And public service holders will always be liable to criticisms. These are the words of Tunde Kolawole, a legal expert, while reacting to the arrest and detention of Aminu Adamu, the 500-level student who allegedly made defamatory posts against the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari. Kolawole, who condemned the action of the country's first lady, also called on social media users and citizens to be wary of posts and allegations they make.
Well, in my humble opinion or my understanding of the law, there are three basic issues that are involved in this. One is criminal defamation. The other one, which is could be described as cyber stalking or cyber crime. And of course, too, you have civil defamation. And lastly, you may want to look at the issues from the moral perspective. Starting from the moral perspective, when the person has stepped into public office, are they not liable to criticism by the citizens, those who elected and put them in power? And if leaders or people in public offices have to start reacting to whatever the citizens say or those who put them in power say, would they even have time to devote to the work for which they have been elected? The second one is an African tradition. He's a child about the age of 23 that boy is said to be. Is it appropriate for him as a person to enforce the passing of the wife of Mr. President? That is Madam Aisha, Madam Buhari. Morally, that may not be correct. Secondly, two wrongs don't make a right. The fact that Mrs. Buhari is in public office, she should know that she's liable to be criticized by the citizens. We and I have seen not too long ago when the president of France was campaigning and a citizen slapped the president. The president merely made a joke out of that effort, that dirty slap. If the president of France was to react the way Madam Buhari is reacting today, you and I would know that the French citizens will not condone that kind of behavior. Further, under criminal defamation, if the wife of the president feels terribly agrees about what that boy has said, what she required to do is to do a petition to the Commissioner of Police alleging that she has been criminally defamed, that somebody has said she's eating public or taking public office to fatten herself. And then the commissioner, the IG of police or the commissioner of police will look at the law and then file an appropriate criminal defamation charges against the boss in the court of competent jurisdiction. The alternative way would have been for Madam Buhari to take a civil suit in the court of competent jurisdiction to challenge or defend our reputation as a citizens of Nigeria and ask for damages that may have been heaped on her.
The National Security Advisor, Babagana Mongono, has declared that security challenges in Nigeria have been significantly degraded. Speaking at the 60th session of the weekly ministerial briefing at the Presidential Villa, Abuja on Thursday, the NSA said this has been made possible with renewed collaboration with all security agencies and international security agencies. While responding to questions on the 2023 general elections, Mongono revealed that President Muhammadu Buhari has directed INEC and security operatives to ensure free, fair and peaceful polls.
The harder we try to solve the problem of insecurity, the more aggressive it becomes at the local level, because these elements keep popping out of the local, government levels. Before they reach areas that they are not supposed to reach, they must have manifested in many ways at the local level. It is extremely important. I know there are some arms of government that are also working to see how the local government can be strengthened. Obviously, there will be vested interests, there will be resistance, but the only way in which we can secure this country outside the traditional methods that have been used is to strengthen the local government. The president has given clear directives. The people's will must prevail. What happened in Anambra, Osun, and Ekiti is what we want to happen all over the country. Let the people choose their leader, whoever they want, then later they can decide. Because if you are really who you are, you don't need to hire thugs. If you cannot restrain your thugs, the government will do that for you. And you'll be called on the carpet and you'll answer questions. We have a lot of politicians, and I'm not being specific about any politician or party. This virus has to be contained.
The scorecard for the 9th National Assembly lawmakers for Senate and the House of Representatives has been unveiled at the National Assembly complex. The comprehensive report, which was put together by Order Paper Publications, aims to establish who is a good and effective legislator using sponsoring and processing bills and motions by legislators as an evaluation matrix. Well, this next report has more details. This is the third edition of an independent performance appraisal of the 9th National Assembly as a lens and avenue for discussing, in a quantitative and qualitative method, the performance of the legislature and legislators on bills. The executive director, in his welcome address, highlighted the reasons behind the yearly publication. He said before now focus had always been on the executive, but his organization has decided to shift attention to the legislature, which according to him is the closest to the people and a critical arm in a democracy.
Why we are focusing on the base? Because we have received feedback to say, okay, it is not about the base or the number of the base, but it's about what is the impact of those base? What is the extent to which they impact the lives and living conditions of citizens? So we have been careful to use a metric we call the VVIP to distill the data sets that you have before you shortly. While commending the publication, federal lawmakers now the publication will help hold lawmakers accountable to their constituents, knowing fully well that their performance is being assessed.
Making laws is just one of the functions of the legislature. Keeping the union going is a duty, and that is done by motions. That is also done by oversight. Issue of subsidy, issue of ad hoc committees, the issue of standing committees, what have they brought to the table? So I think these are parameters that you need to expand the coast so that you have a helicopter view of the performance of the legislature.
Most of our constituents
perhaps use a different parameter in assessing us. Use the stomach infrastructure. How much can you bring? How much can you dash? Meaning that if you have enough money to dash out and you come here, sit there doing nothing, you are a good parliamentarian. And if you come here and introduce and bring about these alternative laws that will change your life, you are useless.
Glancing through the invitation and the background that the executive director of other people has provided already clears the doubt in my mind, and I believe it's same for the Nigerians that will receive this report, that perhaps going forward we'll understand our legislators better, their mandate will be clearer to us.
Other lawmakers believe that it is time to enlighten Nigerians that legislators should not be judged by the number of social functions they attend, but on the numbers of motions, bills and contributions made at plenary or at public hearings.
The barometer for measuring the performance of a legislator should be by the number of bills that he has sponsored and have seen the light of the day, not by the number of weddings or burials that he attends in his village. So by so doing, you have really raised the bar and raised the consciousness of Nigerians as to the actual duty of a legislature.
The appraisal of the National Assembly members will provide an objective basis for citizens to determine the suitability of incumbent legislators seeking re-election. Mary Kanu, TV360, Abuja. The Chairman Senate Committee on the Federal Capital Territory FCT, Senator Smart Adeyemi, has asked the Senate to step up the budget of the FCT. While presenting the report of his committee at Wednesday's plenary, Adeyemi urged the Senate to implement both the FCT budget of 2022 and 2023 concurrently. Meanwhile, a cross-section of lawmakers faulted the direction of the FCT administration, particularly in the area of budget implementation and project execution.
This budget should run concurrently with the 2023 budget when passed till June next year. This is to ensure that money is spent is expended on the projects that have been approved by the two chambers. But I think more importantly, Mr. President, because of the state of the economy, the global economic recession, there is need to inject funds in the economy so that companies do not retrench and do not lead to insecurity of the country. So this budget is coming late, but being as it is, Mr. President, it can still be accommodated if the two chambers so agree with the two committees that this budget be allowed to run concurrently with 2023 budget when passed, which is already before the National Assembly. So on behalf of my colleague, Mr. President, I so submit.
We too must give direction. It's not just to present this budget. We must give direction to areas that must be prioritized. You are giving increase in personnel costs, but we want to know why.
That this will be now the third time. Say aye. Aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
We'll take a break now and return with more stories, to stay with us. Welcome back. Well, in case you missed any of the news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, on Facebook at TV360 Online. And now to COVID-19 stories. UK experts have confirmed that the COVID-19 virus can reside on some ready-to-eat groceries for days. Scientists carried out tests for the Food Standards Agency, purposely smearing the virus onto packaging and food products, including fruits, pastries and bottled drinks. The team examined a range of temperatures and humidity levels to mimic typical storage conditions, and their findings have revealed the risk to consumers remains very low. We'll take another break and return with business stories. And now in business, the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning has made clarification on its alleged pardon of the 2023 appropriation bill, particularly the sum of 206 billion naira it reportedly inserted into the proposed budget of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, who made the clarification during her presentation before the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations, said allegations of budget pardon of projects and allocations in the 2023 appropriation bill made no sense. Ahmed said the project was correctly described in the submission from International Economic Relations Department for the 2023 appropriation bill, but a wrong code was inadvertently used in the process of imputing it, which resulted in it being captured as purchase of security equipment in the budget preparation system.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is projected to utilize 473 million of this loan in the year 2020. This has been provided. This is what is provided, and when you quantify it, when you convert it into naira, using the exchange rate of 435.57 naira to the US dollar, you get this exact amount of 266. This same amount was listed in the MTEP of the ministry. This same amount was listed in the budget of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and was circulated before Fed. But there was a mistake. In providing for this provision, the Budget Office had mistakenly selected a wrong code, which described the amount as security equipment. But the amount itself is correct and is consistent with what has been in the provision even from the level of the MTEP.
Equally with the Minister of Defense, I have a copy of the letter from the Minister of Finance written to the President Commander-in-Chief. His approval to give Minister of Defense money. I'm having issues with the same committee here. Both committees in the House and the Senate, they want to remove the money. If he says he doesn't know about the approval, this is the copy of the approval from the President Commander-in-Chief. It is the same minister that we invited now to come and tell the committee about the approval. And if his committees remove that money, nobody would fault the appropriation committee. They have the right. When we invited him to come here, he would have come to the committee here and said he has discussed with the Ministry of Finance, they have understand themselves. But we are hearing it from the Minister of Finance without him here. So, Permanent Secretary, please tell your minister, it's not about even the appropriation committee inviting her. She has issues with her committees in the House. Most times they invited her, she doesn't appear before the committee.
The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, is advocating a more accurate and balanced reporting of the country's financial sector by the media. The NDIC made the challenge at the 19th edition of its workshop for the Finance Correspondents Association of Nigeria, the first to be held in Port Harcourt. Speaking at the event, the Managing Director and CEO of the corporation, Hassan Bello, said Nigeria's financial sector has faced a series of challenges from the effects of COVID-19 and other global issues.
There is the need to carry the message to depositors
that there is deposit insurance system in place, so that in the event of any of the licensed deposit taking institutions being unable to pay its obligations or its license is revoked, then NDIC is ready to step in and pay up to the maximum insured amount. So we recognized the media as one of our critical stakeholders. That's why on an annual basis we invite them to the workshop so that we can brainstorm, so that they can help us carry that message, and also to discuss topical issues that are happening within the financial system. Any institution that is soliciting for deposit, first of all, check on the CBN website or on NDIC website. You will see those list of licensed deposit-taking institutions. And those are the only ones the public should deal with, because they are regulated and they are also insured, so that in the event of any failure, the deposit insurer stands ready to reimburse depositors so that they will not lose their money.
Recently, the GDP, the inflation, the Naira, all these things, we have experts here that will break them down. And then when they break it down, we will be in better position to report more in a simple language to our reading public.
All futures were mixed on Friday as hopes for further relaxation of COVID curbs in China, which could help demand recover in the world's second biggest economy, boosted market sentiment, but a firmer U.S. dollar capped gains. Brent crude futures were down 1 cent at $86 per barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 21 cents to $81 per barrel after climbing to $81.63 earlier in the session, but benchmarks were on track for the first weekly gains after 3 consecutive weeks of decline. On the global scene, at least 19 people have been killed and 24 others wounded by a blast at a madrasa in Afghanistan's northern city of Aibak. A doctor at a local hospital who confirmed the news of the blast said the casualties were mostly youngsters. There have been dozens of blasting attacks targeting civilians since the Taliban returned to power in August last year, most claimed by the local chapter of the Islamic State group. And now in sports, the much-anticipated opening ceremony of the 21st National Sports Festival has taken place at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba. Fireworks, singing, dancing, and an emphasis on various cultural identities of the 36 states in attendance was the side attraction of the match past. Speaking at the opening ceremony, the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, highlighted the benefits of the opening ceremony while applauding the host state for the standard facilities.
We had wished and promised that we want to deliver a games that is for the athletes. And when you look at the opening ceremony, we have been able to excite
the government of Delta State,
the athletes. We made them happy, and they started feeling very comfortable and happy. And that makes my day.
We planned for it, and I like what I'm seeing. So far, so good. But I know we'll still do some more. As the day goes by, things will keep on unfolding. You'll keep on seeing the competitions and then the facilities and how well it will be used. Then you begin to enjoy it more and more every day. Like I said, it's action-packed. There's not going to be any dull moment. You are here to have fun. Please enjoy yourself.
The preparation, the journey to get here. Delta State did not enjoy the full 24 months. People must remember that Delta State in 16 months put together the infrastructure, the logistics, the planning. So a lot of credit goes to them. So that's an highlight. We have new infrastructure. Second, you can see that almost every single, that's an highlight. The organization is seamless. And then you have 4 governors on stand. It shows the power of sports.
The news bulletin this morning. Thank you for staying with us. I am Mary Kanu. Bye for now.
majestic River Niger, rising from the highlands of Guinea, it meanders through many countries to Nigeria, slicing through the commercial city of Onitsha and the beautiful Asaba on her way to the Delta, where she discharges into the Gulf of Guinea in the Atlantic Ocean. Stretching to about 4,000 kilometers, River Niger is the third longest in Africa and provides livelihood to the people of the many communities on its bank. From here, they irrigate their farmlands and fish in its deep waters. Aside providing veritable mode of transportation, it is also a source of power generation. In fact, many people, particularly in Anambra and Delta states, depend on the river for their sustenance. Back in the day, canoes were the primary means of transportation on the river and served to convey goods and people from one bank to the other. But in 1965, 5 years after independence, the first Niger Bridge constructed by Dumez was completed. With the inauguration of the bridge, the main east-west connection in Nigeria was created. For Southeasterners, homecoming is everything. They return en masse at festive seasons to celebrate with kinsmen. But quite often, the frightening gridlock on the old bridge turns the homecoming trip into a nightmare. Femi Adesina recalls the harrowing experience of a friend who spent 6 hours trying to cross from one end of the bridge to the other.
That friend I had known long before now called me and said, please, what could I do? I said, what was the issue? He said he had been on the River Niger Bridge for 6 hours. 6 whole hours. He said, can I call somebody so that they can intervene and let the bridge flow? He said, 6 hours from the foot of that bridge, that when traffic flows, you can cross that bridge in 5-7 minutes. He said 6 hours they had spent on that bridge, and there was no hope that they would get to the other side.
But then there are those with more bitter tales to tell. On this same bridge, homebound families are known to have been trapped for hours and days on end.
I have slept there, so I have a first-hand experience of the challenge. So in situations like that, it's a nightmare, because you may even come there thinking that you have stayed 1 day. Some people tell you they have stayed 2 days, especially during festivities. It's usually a very major nightmare.
Aside the nightmarish experience of the users, the bridge also poses danger to motorists as a result of the heavy load it bears.
I've had awful experiences flying through that Niger Bridge. It has been an awful experience where we have a dilapidated bridge that for so many years it has lasted. It was so dilapidated that sometimes you'd be scared that you might end up having your car get into the river. So it's an awful experience.
There has been lots and lots of tales about that place. We've had records of the bridge quivering, motorists on the bridge actually feeling the quakes and tremors from the bridge. So it was, in one way or the other, going to end up being a nightmare. It was actually a catastrophe just waiting to happen.
Now, 57 years after it was built, the second Niger Bridge is coming up quickly to alleviate the plight of the people, reduce the load on the old bridge, and boost the socio-economic potentials of the Southeast.
bridge is very nice. It's very good.
So we believe that since the new Niger Bridge have passed, we believe that development can come.
Truly, the construction of a second bridge across the river Niger had long been identified as the panacea to the seemingly intractable gridlock and frustration on the old bridge. Until 2018, it was the subject of intense politicking. While President Shehu Shagari promised to build the bridge, General Ibrahim Babangida challenged Nigerian engineers to design it. From General Sani Abacha to successive governments, nothing much was done except perhaps for President Olusegun Obasanjo, who actually flagged off the construction of the bridge on the eve of his departure in 2007. His successor, Alhaji Omar Yaradua, had a short stay in office, but ahead of the 2015 general elections, President Goodluck Jonathan performed another groundbreaking ceremony and promised to do the bridge.
I remember that clearly. I was in my office, in the Sun newspapers, on that day, and I remember crystal clear that flag off and the things that were said about that bridge. And it's amazing that nothing happened. And then the day the then President Jonathan also went to that side, I remember clearly. That's why it's baffling that after all those body movements, nothing happened.
It was being used for politics. Every 4 years, they do flag off, they do ceremony. After the flag off, they remove everything, and then the bridge is forgotten. After another 4 years, at every election period, canopies are set, and then another flag off. So that was why when the president now gave his word, knowing who he is, that he's going to do this bridge, considered it a flagship project, and then followed through. Today, we're no more talking about flag off, we're now talking of commissioning.
The era that was most significant vis-a-vis Second Niger Bridge was the 16 years of the People's Democratic Party. Anytime elections were approaching, they would go there, make some body movements as if things were going to happen concerning the Second Niger Bridge. Once elections came and they got the votes of the Southeasterners, they disappeared. The next time, when elections were coming again, they would pretend that there was movement on Second Niger Bridge and it would fizzle out again. Then came Muhammadu Buhari, a man from the northwest of the country, from Dara. In terms of affinity with the southeast, it's not much, except that we're all Nigerians.
Interestingly, while little was done during the period of bumper harvests from oil sales, President Muhammadu Buhari, who arrived the scene at a time of lean financial resources, became the game changer. Without the boastful promises and grandstanding of the past, President Buhari plunged headlong into the project. Today, he has succeeded where others before him failed.
I think I'm going to say it unequivocally that President Muhammadu Buhari, that is one of the greatest achievements that he has done for Nigeria. I'm not talking about Southeast, I'm talking about Nigeria as a whole. Because without that bridge, there will be no movement from Southeast to North, from Southeast to West. So even going outside Nigeria, a lot of folks that come to Aba, buy goods, come to Onitsha, buy goods, now have to transfer those goods to other nation states.
It is encouraging, it is nice to see that for the first time, we actually have an administration that has looked into that problem and preferred a real solution in the new Niger Bridge. So I think it's it's a positive step, one that if more of our leaders would emulate, it would make Nigeria a much better place for us to live in.
The second Niger Bridge is an engineering marvel being executed by Julius Berger, the international construction giant. Stretching to a length of 1.6 kilometers, the bridge is equipped with a 10.3-kilometer highway. The toll plazas in both directions of the facility have 8 lanes leading to the bridge. The Owerri interchange on the Onitsha-Owerri road is designed to provide direct access to the bridge from Obosi in Anambra State to Asaba in Delta. Construction of 2 secondary bridges at Amakom and Atani communities are also part of the total package.
All the 16 booths have been completed. The operation building also completed. Then the workshops and other ones, security house, they've been completed. Then the approach road on this project, we have 3 kilometers on Asaba end. Like I said, has been constructed. We only need to put the final layer of the asphalt. Then on the Onitsha end, the Anambra end, we have completed more than half of it.
On the eastern side of the bridge lies the ever-bustling Onitsha, a commercial hub that embodies the resilient and enterprising spirit of the people of the southeast. The Onitsha main market, reputed to be the largest in Africa, attracts visitors from across the continent and contributes to the hectic commercial environment of the city. As a result of the intense economic activities in Onitsha and beyond, traffic holdup on the old bridge is perpetual and frustrating. But the ongoing 7-kilometer approach road on the Onitsha side of the new facility will help to eliminate congestion and provide direct access to the second bridge. The idea is to connect the southeast and south-south regions seamlessly to the rest of the country.
You see, you are talking of a bridge that links Anambra State, southeast, Abia, Imo, to the entire Nigeria, coming through Lagos. All right, that is the route. All the containers that come from Lagos coming to the east, that's the route they use. It's quite enormous. It's something that, if you look at the economic benefit, you get very excited. There's quite a lot we can benefit from it, and it's going to impact very positively on the economy of the southeast.
It's going to lead to free flow of traffic. Of course, even our people who reside in other parts of the world, or in other parts of the country, once there is a period of festivities where all of our people return home to celebrate Christmas, Easter, and what have you, they will not hesitate. Most of them will come back home. And coming back home brings happiness home. Economically, economic will become viable because goods will move freely between other parts of the country and the southeast. Business will boom and everything will pick up.
On the other side of the bridge lies the serene city of Asaba, the capital of Delta State and once the colonial headquarters of the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria. Strategically located on the bank of the river, Asaba serves as the main entryway to the southeast from the Lagos axis. Here, traffic is usually heavy on its main highway, but to ease the flow and divert vehicles to the new bridge, a 3.3-kilometer approach road is also being constructed.
The second Niger Bridge is the artery between the western part and the eastern part of the country and the rest of the country. You can't quantify what it will do economically. Even apart from the economy, how about the comfort of the people? Going home at festive seasons, our brethren from east of the Niger love to travel at Easter, at Christmas, and other festive seasons. You cannot imagine the relief they will have on that bridge. They have slept on that bridge before. My friend spent 6 hours last December, but people who slept till the next day have that experience. So the relief will come for them.
President Muhammad Buhari is a man of few words. When in 2018 he gave assurance that his administration was going to deliver the project, many people may have taken it with a pinch of salt and perhaps waved it off as a familiar story, a tale by moonlight repeatedly told by past politicians without commensurate action. 4 years after, the dream is set to become a reality.
I thank God I'm alive to see the working of that second Niger Bridge. They have gone a long way. I am happy over what I see today. They are trying. They are trying. I pray, let the Chukwu Okike Abioma guide them. So far they have gone.
It's been a subject of serious politicking over the years. So our people kind of developed a feeling that it will never come. But all of a sudden, here comes President Buhari, who now announced that he was going to do the bridge and immediately started work.
It waited this long because they made it political. Instead of really pulling up their bootstraps and working, they turned it to a political thing. That was why whenever elections were approaching, they would go there to hoodwink the people of the region to get their votes. They turned it into a political thing. But then came President Buhari, who was not interested in fooling anybody, who was not interested in the politics of it, was just interested in action.
Under this administration as well, the long-abandoned Onitsha River Port has been revived and may soon become a port of final destination for goods bound for the southeast, thereby decongesting the existing seaports in Lagos, Port Harcourt and other cities. Stakeholders are of the view that the second Niger Bridge will boost activities at the river port and complement the multimodal transportation initiative of the administration.
Today, we talk of multimodal forms of transportation. You talk about the road, you talk about the rail, you talk about water and things like that. So this multi-approach is something that has a lot to do with impacting on the economy. So here is the Onitsha River Port that has to deal with the water, and then here is the second Niger Bridge that has to do with the roads. But both complement each other.
To ensure compliance to schedule and quality delivery, the project site has witnessed high-profile visitors lately. Aside the Minister of Works, Babatunde Fashola, who pays regular supervisory visits to the site, the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, recently led top functionaries of the federal government to see the state of readiness of the bridge.
The Federal Executive Council has passed tolling policy, national tolling. National is for the nation as a whole. So which one will be concession, toll fares, and so on? That's secondary. Important. Let us finish this road.
Similarly, the Minister of Finance, Hajia Zainab Ahmad, also came calling with the Managing Director of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, Mr. Uchoji, and Chief Executives of other relevant agencies. For the Minister, it was an inspection and assessment visit to be sure the 157 billion naira so far released has been well utilized.
I can report to Mr. President and say I have seen where all the 157 billion naira has gone to. This is a project that is very dear to His Excellency the President. It is designed to uplift the lives and livelihoods of the people of the southeastern part and the southwestern part of our country.
Indeed, the transportation industry has experienced unprecedented turnaround in the past 7 years. For a critical sector that supports socio-economic growth, it's never been this good. Apart from equipping the National Inland Waterways Authority to provide navigable pathways for the movement of goods and services, stupendous amount of resources have also been committed into developing a functional rail transportation system. In addition to the second Niger and local Oweto bridges, solid road networks that crisscross the country and connect the geopolitical zones have been constructed.
when the story of the Buhari administration is to be told, of course, we will talk about the second Niger Bridge. We will talk about the Bodo Boni Bridge. We will talk about the Loko Oweto Bridge. We will talk about Lagos Ibadan Expressway. We will talk about the new ultramodern airport in Lagos, the one in Kano, the one in Port Harcourt. We will talk about the new runway in Enugu. We will talk about so many things.
Just as the River Niger provides legitimate employment and sustenance for many families, construction activities at the new facility have also given jobs and livelihood to many people from the region. In addition to this legacy infrastructure, critical road projects and monuments are also being executed in the zone. Despite these huge investments, political detractors had actually tried to sell the false narrative of hatred and marginalization to some gullible natives of the area.
With the developmental strides that the president has taken to the south, it's not just the second Niger Bridge. What about the Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway, which the president made sure that that rehabilitation of such road is completed? Other giant projects that the president has started and also completed in the southeast is an evidence that the president indeed does not hate the southeast.
Don't forget that time was when southeasterners, people of Igbo extraction, were controlling the levers of development. I'll give you an example. The deputy senate president from southeast, deputy speaker from southeast, chairman senate committee on works southeast, chairman house committee on works southeast, minister of finance and coordinating minister of the economy southeast, secretary to government of the federation southeast. And all through those periods, not 1 kilometer of our roads, federal roads, that were in terrible state, not 1 kilometer was addressed. And all these people I mentioned are from southeast. Now it took somebody else who is not from southeast to now address this infrastructural decay. Now face the reconstruction of these roads, this critical infrastructure. Just to mention a few of the things that this administration has done in the southeast. And then somebody goes back and says he hates southeast. How does you demonstrate hate?
This president bears malice to nobody. And he has cared for the southeast as much as he cares for other parts of the country.
The second Niger Bridge is an important national asset. Aside easing traffic on the old bridge, it is an inter-regional integrator with the capability of boosting economic activities and development in the southeast. Already, the people are beginning to tap into the huge investment opportunities that come with the bridge.
You know our people, we are business people. We understand the dynamics and we take advantage of opportunities. It will bring a lot of development to the southeast, a lot. And even south-south, because the bridge is coming from Asaba to Onitsha and vice versa. So the development is not only for south, it's also for south-south.
Truly, when the story of the Muhammadu Buhari administration is told, the second Niger Bridge will be recorded among its greatest achievements.
When President Buhari would have been done and is gone to have his due retirement, and the story is being told, what would never be forgotten will be his footprints on the sands of time in terms of infrastructure.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it. Use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Many thanks for joining us on the program. I am Folashade Ogurinde. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has voted to increase the benchmark interest rate by 100 basis points to 16.5%, the highest since 2001. The CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, disclosed this while reading the communique of the last MPC meeting of the year on Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. The MPC said the tightening would curb a higher rate of inflation and restore investors' confidence. To speak more on this development, Chijioke Ikechukwu, the Managing Director and CEO, Bristol Investment Limited, thank you very much for joining us. Now, what do you make of the MPC's decision to raise interest rate to 16.5%?
Yeah, this rate was expected, and we also expected, I expected personally that CRR was going to be increased just because of the aftermath of the announcement of the redesign of Naira, the fact that a lot of money was going to come into the system, and so they will want to reduce the money circulation by increasing the CRR. But that notwithstanding, the aspect of adjusting the MPR to meet with the current inflationary situation was actually expected, and that's what has happened. Now that it's happened, what we're going to be expecting is the fact that banks are going to be adjusting their rates, and their rates in the sense that people who have taken monies from banks are going to be receiving letters right now to adjust their rates upwards. And if that happens, that means money in they're going to be passing down that particular burden to ultimate consumers, because people, there are already facilities that are already in place by these commercial banks. And that, what that means is that they're going to ensure that monies actually will just get into circulation and reduce as the case may be. Yes. So if we expect this to happen, there's also the fact that this may actually trickle down to costs of production, because a lot of manufacturers are going to borrow money and going to ensure that things are done. So we expect that cost of production is going to increase, and that is going to obviously affect prices of goods and services.
Now, the CBN has increased MPR a couple of times this year. Do you see this move taming rising inflation, as the CBN governor has expressed?
Yes, there are a lot of other reasons. Of course, first of all, you just know that this is a global situation. The inflation that we have experienced in the country is being experienced by many other countries, especially even the developed countries. And we have seen them increase their rates as high as we cannot imagine. And so these are all the things affecting the kind of adjustments we are